Without understanding the variegatedness of the absolute truth, one falls down. The impersonalists, instead of surrendering to the Lord, assume themselves equal to the Lord and thus proclaim ahambrahmasmi. The living entity is, of course, Brahman, but he is not Para Brahman, the supreme absolute truth. It is astonishing to see how a person who is being kicked by the laws of the Lord's illusory energy at every step can falsely think of becoming one with the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam says that such persons are avishuddha buddhyaya, which means that because they falsely think themselves liberated and at the same time think themselves equal with the absolute truth, their intelligence is not purified. The Bhagavatam says, those who are simply puffed up, thinking themselves liberated by some non-devotional process, are not intelligent, because they have not yet surrendered unto you. In spite of executing all kinds of austerities and penances, or even arriving at the brink of Brahman realization, they think that they are in the effulgence of Brahman. But actually, because they have no transcendental activities, they fall down to material activities. The cycle of birth and death cannot be stopped unless one is a pure devotee of the Supreme Lord. It is said, Harim Veena Mritam Na Taranti. One cannot surpass the cycle of birth and death unless one is favored by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should not be satisfied simply with knowing that he is Brahman. He must engage himself in the service of the Supreme Brahman, that is, Bhakti. Because non-devotees neglect the transcendental loving service of the lotus feet of the personality of Godhead, their intelligence is not pure, and therefore they fall down. The Absolute Truth is described as variegated in Brahma Samhita. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, fulfilling all desires, in abodes built with spiritual gems, and surrounded by millions of desire trees. He is always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune. Because the impersonalists do not desire and consequently are not allowed to enter the Vaikuntha planets, they simply remain in the Brahman effulgence. In Brahman, there is no variety but only Shanti or peace. Thus they fall down again into material variety in want of engagement. Impersonalists often quote the slogans ahambrahmasmi, I am Brahman, Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, I am the Supreme Absolute Truth, and world is false. Danda Grihana Matrena Nara Narayano Bhavet. simply by accepting the danda or stick, a man becomes Narayana. The impersonalists undergo serious penances and austerities to reach the platform of impersonal Brahman. But because there is no pleasure there, they again descend to enjoy material variety. Because the soul, by nature, cannot be without activity, the impersonalists in this world turn towards doing social welfare work, and since their philosophy does not afford them the opportunity to know about the personal features of God and the variegated engagement in the spiritual world, they keep themselves engaged with their social welfare work without any connection to God or spirituality. Thus, they lose the opportunity of human form of life to hear, glorify, and remember the nectarian pastimes of the Supreme Lord that can transport one to the spiritual world. We may build a nice spaceship and send it off into space, and the astronauts may go up there and fly in the impersonal sky, but eventually they will become tired and pray to God, "Please let us return to land." A rocket needs a planet to land, otherwise it has to fall down. Some years ago, the Skylab rocket was falling down back to Earth with no shelter to land in the space. The impersonalists face the similar fate. They have to crash back to Earth because they do not know that in the Brahma Jyoti there are innumerable spiritual Vaikuntha planets floating, the capital of which is Goloka Vrindavan. The Brahma Samhita gives a vivid description of the variegatedness of the spiritual opulence within the Brahma Jyoti. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is endowed with great power. The glowing effulgence of his transcendental form is the impersonal Brahman, which is absolute, complete, and unlimited, and which displays the varieties of countless planets with their different opulences in millions and millions of universes. Therefore, we can understand that the Brahma Jyoti is the spiritual light that emanates directly from the body of the Lord. Therefore, everything in one sense is connected directly with the personal body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.